Hi and welcome back to the channel. So this question comes up from time to time. Why did I leave London? And there's so many reasons for that. What I want to do is to take some time and explain to you guys why I left London, which is a big city. It's one of the biggest cities in Europe and it's very cosmopolitan and there are lots of job opportunities and money and the general comforts you expect from a big city in a Western country. The thing is, when you live in a city or a country all your life, you take it for granted and also you stop seeing the negatives because you deal with them on a day-to-day basis and it becomes kind of normal. You learn to deal with them and you accept them. And most people, and I was one of them, they become part of the rat race where you start doing what everyone else is doing. You wake up early in the morning, you go to work, you spend, I don't know, 8 or 10 hours a day at work. And if the environment at work and the culture in your company is one of those that says the person who turns up early and the person who leaves very late is the cool person, he's the hardworking person, the one that's supposed to be respected. And you end up doing those things without realizing that it's a stupid culture created by the company to get people to work extra hours to give in their personal time and in most cases not be rewarded for it, because most of these people who work extra hours and long hours in London don't get paid overtime. Some do, but a vast majority, especially in the corporate world, if you ask for overtime, then it's really frowned upon, thinking, wow, why are you asking for overtime? You're not really sincere to the company. So all of those kind of things you start doing. For example, going to work in the morning, you have to wait for 2, 3 trains to go by before you can get on one, and you're packed in it like sardines in a tin can, and you accept it and you get used to it and you think that's part of my life. And you end up working long hours and coming home late and you live for the weekend. When I was a kid, I used to listen to all these songs and they mentioned living for the weekend. I didn't really understand it. But as I grew older, I realized that's what they mean, living for the weekend, because you're not really living every day. You're working every day and paying bills, and then you are waiting for the weekend when you can relax and do something. And then when the weekend comes, because everyone else is trying to do the same thing, there are traffic jams, the supermarkets are heaving with people, everything is just chock-a-block. There are 10 million people living in London, so you can imagine how busy it is all the time, everywhere. Everything is expensive. Well, compared to Scandinavia, it's cheap, but when you live in London, you feel that everything is expensive for what you get for it, especially housing. So rental accommodation. I mean, of course, if you compare it to cities like Copenhagen or Denmark or Oslo, it's the same. But there's a different reason for why these countries have higher prices on everything, and it's because the population is so low and there's not enough money and not enough houses. So the amount of tax people pay is higher. Anyway, let's not go into the Scandinavian life. Let's talk about why I left London. For those of you who follow my channel and have watched my journey over the last 5 years on YouTube, will know that I was really sucked into the materialistic world. I was working hard, I was successful, I was earning a good wage, and because I was working so hard and I had very little time for myself, whenever I had the opportunity to spend money, I was rewarding myself, treating myself, because I felt like I deserve it. I would go buy, I don't know, a £1,200 briefcase just to put my laptop to go to work. And I would think, yes, I deserve it because I work so hard. I would go buy a new watch and think, yes, I deserve it because I work so hard. I bought so many cars. I've had more than 55 cars in my life, and maybe half of them were very expensive, and I wasted a lot of money. And now that I'm old and I look back at my life and think of what I did in the last 20 years, I realize that I was sucked into this materialistic world of not enjoying your life, but giving yourself treats to make yourself feel better. It's like having a spoon of sugar when you're hungry instead of having a proper meal. And then you're hungry again in half an hour because it's just a sugar rush and you didn't get the nutrition. So that's how I felt like it living in London. I was constantly hungry for something to fill my life. That hole was there, the emptiness was there, and I was unhappy even though I lived in a big, beautiful house. I drove sports cars and I had nice things, and everyone around me thought I was successful and I thought I was a failure because I looked at others who were more successful than me. And when I mean success, I am talking about money. I was looking at people who were earning more money than me and thinking, well, they've done better than me, I'm not doing so well. Especially those who were a few years younger than me and were doing better. I thought, gosh, I'm a complete failure. Whereas to others looking at my life from the outside, they thought I was really successful and happy. And it took me a long time to learn that success is happiness and fulfillment. It's not money, it's not a title, it's not your career, it's not your place in the corporate world. I was working really hard to go up the ladder and become the chief operating officer or a CEO of a company, and that's what I thought when I achieve that, I will feel like I'm successful. And none of those things actually matter. And now I tell my nephews and other young people in my life, and they don't get it at all. And I think if someone had maybe told me 20 years ago or 30 years ago, maybe I wouldn't have believed it. Because I think you have to live through life and experience these things to learn and understand what is wrong and what's right. I guess if everyone told you that fire will burn you and it's very hot, you would not understand until you get burnt once and then you realize what it feels like. So each one of us has to go through life and experience it and then come to the conclusion as to what we like and dislike. And yeah, so I felt like I was going through life on autopilot. I was really unhappy. And every time I came to Scandinavia, I don't know why, but I felt like I'd come home. Funny thing is, I spoke to my medium. Those of you who watch my channel will know that I went to a medium a couple of years ago and I had a life-changing experience. You can watch that video if you're interested. But I asked her, I said, why is it that every time I go to Scandinavia, I have this amazing feeling that I've come home? And she said, oh, it's very simple because in your past life, you lived in Iceland in a little village and you grew up and died there up till the age of 80 or something. And she actually said that one of my friends was my best friend in that life as well. And that's why in this life we have a great connection. And she said that some people or spirits, when they die, they refuse to be born again, and sometimes they allow themselves to come back and then they have different lives in different eras. I didn't believe in any of these things, but the older I'm getting and the more signs I'm seeing of things that she's telling me and talking to me about, they somehow make sense. Because when I came here for the first time, the smells, the people, the clothes, I don't know, the snow, everything felt like I had come home. It felt so normal. And now I'm living here in minus 22 degrees. I think the lowest we had this year was minus 24. I don't feel odd. I don't feel weird. Somehow it's very natural. I know how to dress appropriately when I go out. I'm not freezing cold. And I'm doing all the things which are very unnatural to my natural habitat where I grew up. So let's not talk about Scandinavia. Let's go back to London. So in London, I think my life was very hollow and shallow. And I had a lot of friends, and I don't think they were real friends. I've got maybe three or four friends left in London that I still consider my friends and I'm in touch with them. The rest of them, I just cut them out of my life. Because when I had the accident, I was bedridden for a month. I was in severe pain, and only two people came to see me from London. And the rest of them sent me text messages or stuff. But these are the people that socialized with me, had hundreds of dinners and parties with me, but when I was sick, they didn't bother coming to see me. And that shows that people are just not sincere, perhaps. They're not real friends. And maybe I chose the wrong friends, so I don't know. You might have great friends. On the other hand, I have friends that I've known from Scandinavia for the last 23, 24 years. And every time I see them, it's like we have been hanging out every day. It doesn't feel like there's a gap of a year or 6 months or 2 years. They're very nice people. And I feel they're genuine. They don't pretend to be your best friend. But they're there when you need them. Funny thing is, when I was in London and I had broken my hip, a friend of mine came from Russia and he said, I can work from home, I can work from anywhere, so I can come and help you and I can stay with you. And he stayed with me for a couple of months. He made me breakfast every morning, lunch, and then he would help me do so many things. And it was so nice that there was someone who just changed his life to come and help another friend. And he was working very long hours, and because of the time difference, he was working early in the morning. So there was some adjustments he had to make to his life, but that's what friendship is. Yes, my family were there. So Fabio, for example, came from Italy so many times to help me do things. And after the accident, he stayed with me for almost a month to get me settled in. And the point I'm trying to make here is that in London, people are there because they enjoy your company. Maybe they want something from you, whether it's your company, whether it's your money, whether it's your contacts. There is less sincerity. The other problem is that when you go out, you're constantly bombarded with marketing and everyone is trying to outdo the other person. So I was constantly feeling like I'm not doing well enough. If I don't know, went to a car club and I had the top of the range convertible 911, then there was some other guy who turned up with something better, and he would somehow try to make you feel that your car isn't good enough, rather than just everyone enjoying what we have together. So the marketing also, I'm quite susceptible to marketing, and I don't know whether it's my nature or whether because I grew up in a country where we are all victims of marketing, that whenever I see something, I really want it, and if I can afford it, I would go and buy it. But here in Sweden, I think people are more down to earth, and no one is running out to outdo the other person. People actually feel proud of finding a bargain or getting something that was cheaper than what it should be. And they're more frugal and normal. And I think that's what I'm really enjoying here. And the last thing that really puts me off London is this craziness that's happening all around the world, but it's happening more so in the UK and US, the English speaking world, where this left wing agenda is being shoved down your throat. And if you don't follow it, if you don't agree with it, then you're the enemy, you're a fascist. It's like you are not allowing anyone to speak. It's either you're with them or you're their enemy. It's almost like Nazis coming back in the Western world, in the UK and America. The other thing that really annoys me about the UK is the politics, and it's because we have 70 odd million people, and the vast majority is not very smart. And I'm not ashamed to say it because it's true. They might be literate, but they're not educated, and They have a lot of information, but they're not informed. And they choose these leaders to run the government based on their skin color or based on their political affiliations rather than choosing the right person. So London has been run by left-wing crazy people from Ken Livingstone to now we have the Sadiq Khan, and they are just people that the locals elect without thinking what they're going to do to the city. And the city is ruined. If you go to London now, it's a totally different city to what it used to be 20 years ago, where you had beautiful classic architecture all around and it was a beautiful city. Now they have allowed all these buildings, the modern glass skyscrapers, to be built amongst the classic architecture. Within 10 to 15 years, modern architecture gets dated and starts looking ugly. What are they going to do then? And it's because the politicians, the local governments, they are so corrupt. Everyone is being bought. I'm absolutely sure that they are getting bribes and they are corrupt because in other countries they don't allow it. All the modern buildings in Paris are separate and far away from the beauty of the classic architecture. So how is it that London was allowed to do all of this? And yeah, it's just a city that's controlled by the masses, the mobs, and the yobs. And I'm very sad to say it's not the city, it's not the home that I remember that I'm used to. It used to be a place with honesty boxes and you didn't have to lock your door and your car and everything was nice. And now you have security cameras and facial recognition. If you walk through London for an hour or you take the underground or bus or something, you're photographed 300 times in 1 hour. And they have facial recognition, you're constantly being monitored, which is great. I have no problem with that. But why do we have to do that? That's the question we need to ask. We have allowed the city to become so horrible and so rough that now we need all this security. And where is the money coming from? It's the taxpayers' money. Why don't we change the way we behave so we won't need all this security? And that's what my issue is with London, that people don't change their behavior. They want the government to come and fix it, and the government doesn't tell the people that they need to change their behavior. Very simple example. Many years ago, when you went to a supermarket, you got paper bags, and then it was a whole hoo-ha that we're killing trees and paper bags are destroying the environment, so we switched to plastic bags. Then now we switched back to paper bags. Well, both of them are bad for the environment. Why are we not forcing people to say, if you don't bring a bag, you don't get what you need? If you don't have a coffee cup, you don't get coffee. Simple as that. Ban these things if you really want to make a difference. Now, the companies, especially supermarkets, are charging for these bags. Where is this money going? Probably in their pocket. No one knows. And you can buy a bag now, which used to be free. And they're charging a lot of money for small sized bags, so you end up having to buy more bags, and the vast majority of the population is too lazy to bring their bags, so you have this new economy going on of selling bags. Utterly ridiculous. Same thing with pollution agenda. There is this complete BS pollution agenda that's going on, constantly telling people, oh, the air, the environment. Well, you're making the roads narrow, you're slowing down the traffic, you're creating awful one-way systems, you're blocking the roads, so you're creating congestion and then saying, oh, the environment's suffering as a result. Allow the traffic to flow, provide them with a good public transport system. The problem in London is that transport system is incapable of handling if everyone stopped using their cars. So if there isn't an alternative, people have to use their cars. So allow the traffic to flow. But instead, they're making it so difficult because they want to charge money. And who are these people? It's the morons, the absolute morons who've been elected to run the cities. They have no clue. Sadiq Khan's qualification for becoming the mayor of London was, they're all saying, oh, his father was a bus driver in Pakistan. So he's really in touch with the people. Well, if that's his qualification, then wow, he is really qualified. Why don't you make him a neurosurgeon and let him operate on all the people with brain tumors? For God's sake, we need to wake up. We're electing utter morons with zero qualifications and giving them one of the biggest cities in the world to run, and they're bringing it to the ground. So I think I'm one of those people. I get affected emotionally by these things, and I decided since I can't do anything to change it, I better leave, because what's the point of me contributing to a society that I am not happy with? I love my country, but the city that I lived in is not the same city anymore. The politicians are not the same politicians anymore. The culture is completely lost. So I don't know. Maybe in future it will change and get better, but I don't have any hope. And as I say, the solution is to leave instead of sitting there and moaning every day about something. So I'm here in a different country, starting a new life, and I'm really happy so far. Who knows? I might get sick of this and move somewhere else, but at least I'm trying. So, oh my god, some of these videos are cathartic but also very exhausting because they bring out all these emotions that I have kind of packed and thrown away. And then I think, oh, I need to talk about this and tell people. But then when I tell people, they all come out. So thanks for putting up with me and listening to me and watching my channel. And until the next one.